In today's passage, Jesus says something that has troubled Christians for centuries. When Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Well, it clearly sounds as if he felt like he had been abandoned or forsaken, left to die alone on a Roman cross. For a long time, critics, skeptics, and non-believers have pointed to this one thing Jesus said as evidence that he was no more than a misguided political figure who had hoped to be Judea's king. But I would like to show you how this last cry from the cross says no such thing. The followers of Jesus at the cross knew their rabbi was doing something he had been doing for his entire ministry. He had just given them one final lesson from Scripture. And once you see this lesson, you will never forget it. Do you remember all the days when Jesus was teaching the crowds along the shoreline of the Sea of Galilee? No one in those crowds had a Bible in their hands, not a single one. And yet, they all knew the words. The culture around Jesus was filled with people who had memorized large portions of Scripture. So, when Jesus quoted the text, people who knew the Bible picked up on it. For instance, when Jesus said he was the good shepherd, there were some in the crowd who said he was demon-possessed and a madman. Why? Because they all knew Jesus had just connected himself with a passage from Ezekiel 34. Now, in that particular passage, the prophet had criticized the bad shepherds of Israel that would include the political and religious leaders who were shepherds of the people. He had given them a message from the Lord. Through Ezekiel, God had promised that he would come and shepherd the people himself. He would be their good shepherd. So, when Jesus claimed the title for himself, it's easy to see why not everyone was a believer. When Jesus promised his followers that he could give them rest for their souls, he was appealing to a famous passage from Jeremiah. When Jesus claimed to be the Son of Man, it was a direct connection to Daniel chapter 7. People who had memorized these passages instantly knew when Jesus was quoting Scripture, and Jesus did this a lot. You and I could do this with a handful of passages in the Bible. For instance, if I were to say, "The Lord is my shepherd," more than likely you could quickly respond, "I shall not want." That's because we know Psalm 23. We are so familiar with that passage, none of us would even have to open a Bible to talk about it. The people around Jesus were that familiar with the entire Jewish Scripture, or what Christians commonly call the Old Testament. This included Mark, the man who wrote the words we've been reading. In fact, Mark probably assumed that most of the people who read his gospel were extremely familiar with the Torah, with the prophetic writings, and with the Psalms. His community was famous for this. It's what he grew up with in his home. Oh, and one more thing. Jesus, Mark, and all the people around them had never seen chapter numbers or verse numbers in the Bible. Never. Chapter numbers and verse numbers were still centuries away. In that day, if a rabbi wanted to point his followers to a key passage of Scripture, he would quote the most famous line from that passage, or the first line from one of the Psalms. And that's what Jesus did on the cross, practically in his last breath. Psalm 22 begins with words that should sound familiar. My God, why have you forsaken me?" And if you think that's shocking, you should spend some time with the entire passage. Psalm 22 speaks of a man who's been mocked, even as he dies. It's no accident that Mark includes details of people mocking Jesus as he died. The criminals mocked him. The chief priests mocked him. Some of the teachers of the law taunted him. He was, as the psalm said, scorned by everyone. All who see me mock me. The psalm also speaks of a special birth of a person who has belonged to God from the very beginning of his life. There's a reference to being poured out like water, to all of his bones being out of joint, and of a man so thirsty that his mouth felt like dusty, dried up pottery pieces. His hands and his feet were pierced. People gambled for pieces of his clothing. I'm telling you, you should spend some time with Psalm 22. It's like gazing upon an oil painting of the crucifixion. Do you know what else it is? It's a promise that death is not the end of the story for Jesus. This is a song of one who knows he will yet fulfill his vows. Even in this horrible moment, he knows the day will come when he will reign over the nations. And in time, future generations will be told about the Lord, for he has done it. He has done it? You mean like it is finished? Here's what I know about that last cry from the cross. Jesus was not giving up. He was not dying in defeat. And as the psalm also says, God had not turned his face away from him. Instead, this master teacher who had been using Scripture for his entire ministry to teach his followers was teaching one final lesson as he reached the end of his life. In this reading plan, I have been showing you a lot of images from the land of the Bible to help you better understand the words of the Bible. Knowing the land is part of understanding the context of Scripture. If you can see the place where an event happened, I hope you have started to understand that you can often see something that will help you better understand what we're reading in the Bible. But understanding context also involves listening. It involves some study. But Jesus was Jewish. Almost all of his earliest followers were Jewish. Obviously, they also lived a long time ago. So if you're like me and not coming out of a Jewish background, that means we're going to have to do some homework. We'll have to work hard to hear what Jesus was saying. If you do that, you will comprehend more and more of all that Jesus did, all that he said, and why he had to die. He was by no means forsaken on the cross. Instead, he was fulfilling his destiny so you and I could find rest for our souls and purpose for today.